Yamaha was founded by Torakusa Yamaha in 1897. It was originally called Nippon Gaki Company. In 1887, Yamaha repaired a broken reed organ, and shortly after, he built his first reed organ. His legacy of introducing Western music and assembly techniques in Japan extended around the world to many facets of life. In 1897, Nippon Gaki Company is established, and then, in 1900, the company began its first production of upright pianos. In 1954, the company establishes Yamaha Music School and produces its first audio product. Then, a year later, in 1955, establishes Yamaha Motor Company. In 1959, the company begins production of sports equipment, but more importantly, taking into consideration that this presentation is for a music class, production of electronic organs began too. In 1960, Yamaha International Corporation is established in America. The company began producing lifestyle-related products in 1964, and then wind instruments a year later in 1965. Another year later, in 1966, Yamaha Music Foundation is established, and it expands into Europe, called Yamaha Europe, located in West Germany. Fast forward to 1987, the company name is officially changed to Yamaha Corporation to mark 100 years in business. 2002 marks the year that Yamaha Music and Electronics in China and Yamaha Music in Europe is established. Yamaha establishes Music Entertainment Business Holding Company in 2007. In 2010, it renewed Yamaha Ginza Building. It's a complex that has a shopping area, music studio, concert hall, and so on. It also completed integration of Japanese factories into Kakagawa. In 2012, it completes integration of Japanese wind instrument factories in Tokuya and marks 125 years of business. In 2013, Yamaha Music Japan Company is established, and in 2014, the company establishes domestic musical instrument and audio equipment production subsidiaries. Beginning production with reed organs, they were phasing out by a more inexpensive American piano. Yamaha toured the United States and returned and manufactured a piano that was recognized Grand Prize at the St. Louis World Exposition in 1904. In World War I, Yamaha died, but the company's and manufacturing growth continued, and record sales during and after the war, even though there was a recession. In World War II, Yamaha had to stop musical instrument production to assist with war efforts, and they manufactured propellers. In 1954, Yamaha offered training to new musicians and offering opportunities to educate and energize Japanese youth. In 1966, Yamaha Music Foundation is established and allows for sponsorships of festivals, concerts, and overseeing music schools. The progression of business. In 1949, Yamaha lists shares on Tokyo Stock Exchange. In 1955, Yamaha Motor Company is established and splits from the primary Yamaha company, traditionally of music equipment and such. And in 1987, Yamaha changed the company name. During the early 1900s, Yamaha's focus and core passion on the piano and music was clear. However, they began to look at more than just musical instruments. In 1953, Kawakami, president of Yamaha, toured the United States and Europe. Yamaha began to look at a person's lifestyle and where the world was heading. The future proved to be moving fast, and Yamaha was determined to be part of it. This began to transition the company's vision of quote-unquote more than music. This is evident when the company splits in 1955 to create the Yamaha Motor Company, which would go on to manufacture boats, motorcycles, sports equipment, and more. Expansion and survival of business. In the 1980s, errors, lack of research, and forced progression led Yamaha into financial difficulties. In the 1990s, labor unions forced the firing of Yamaha's president, Kawakami. In 1993, they developed silent pianos and sales flourished. Additional electronic musical equipment introduced and sold above expectations. In 2000, another president was announced, Shuji. Yamaha had fallen financially unstable again, also in 2000, with a $384 million net loss. In the 1980s, overexpansion of the company and its products left the company struggling financially and accompanied by a rebellious workforce. Back to the basics. In the 21st century, Yamaha focused on the music and audiovisual groups, music brand, marketing, and digital media business. This isn't to forget, though, that Yamaha did play a huge part of manufacturing motorcycles and other electronic equipment. I think Yamaha is a very important part of the music industry because of how well-rounded they are and how much different kinds of equipment they have, and how a lot of their equipment is very reliable amongst musicians, and how I would say every musician has probably played on a Yamaha instrument at some point or used a Yamaha instrument. And I think the fact that they not only manufacture music equipment but also a lot of sporting goods and motorcycles and boats and whatnot is very impressive, considering the company started just only producing music equipment. And I think that is a good indicator of how a company can grow and flourish in multiple ways, and how a company that can be reliable and known for both things, and how a company that is known very well for both things can sell both things reliably, and not just, oh, it's got good music stuff, or oh, it's only got good motorcycles. It's, hey, both of this stuff is good, not just one or the other. I also think it's really cool how Yamaha, simply started out as repairing pianos and manufacturing pianos, and then during the war, they began creating aircraft propellers, and then from there, it went to other kind of engines and engineering type products, such as bikes, engines, boats, ATVs, snowmobiles, golf carts, and so on. And I think that something that starts out as a music company and kind of tree branches its way out into everything else, and as such a reliable and powerful company is very impressive. And I know I've said this a million times, but considering it started as a music industry and a music company, and it still continues to be a very well-known music company and producer with its equipment and everything else. And I think that's what makes Yamaha a very powerful company in the music industry.